Welcome back to ESBR Boxing, and I'm delighted to be joined by my esteemed colleague, Elliot Grigg. Elliot, we're here. It's a big one. One of three world title fights in the UK on Saturday, the 27th of May. This one we are, of course, covering Michael Conlan against Alberto Lopez. IBF World Featherweight title on the line. Lopez again going into someone's backyard, this time going over to Belfast fight Michael Conlan after obviously fighting Josh Warrington last time out. This is a great fight. One I'm really looking forward to. Elliot, first and foremost, I'll ask you how you are, and yeah, are you excited for this fight?
Oh, Paul, well, first off, yeah, thank you obviously for having me back on here. I'm delighted again to be here with you. Again, as I've said, I think I've said it a few times on some of our content. For me, obviously, of those triple header events that are taking place, obviously, Lara Wood and Coley obviously fighting CBS, isn't he, on the same night? But I think this for me is actually the one that I'm actually going to watch, prioritize it over the other two, frankly, just because for numerous reasons, which we'll go into here. But I just feel like I just want to see Conlan become world champion, frankly. And yeah, so I'm really excited about this. I'm really excited to delve deeper in with you into it with you today. So yeah, let's crack on.
Yeah, absolutely buzzing for this fight. I'll fingers crossed. Touch wood, I'll be there at ringside on fight night. But as we always do, I know we mainly do this in our preview. I'll just quickly go through a tail of the tape before we dive into a little bit deeper. Obviously, Michael Conlan is the challenger here. He's 18-1 with 9 KOs. Obviously that one defeat being the knockout to Lee Wood, which lives long in the memory of a lot of British boxing fans. He's 31 years old, stands at 5'8", 69-inch reach, and is an orthodox fighter. The champion, Alberto Lopez, 27-2 with 15 stoppages. He's 29 years old. He's 4 inches smaller at 5'4", and also has a shorter reach by about 2.5 inches. And of course, yes, he is the current IBF featherweight champion after beating Josh Warrington last time out. Coming back to you now, Elliot, there's a few points I want to discuss with you. Looking at one of the main points here I want to talk about is the fact that Lopez beat Warrington in Leeds last time, which not a lot of people do. You know, Warrington and Leeds is kind of like it's a different breed. I saw when he beat Lee Selby to become world champion. Not a lot of people give Warrington a hope of in that fight, but the crowd seemed to really help him and get him through that. We thought the case would maybe be the same with Lopez last time, but Lopez went in there and upset at the apple cart big time, beat Warrington. This time he's fighting Michael Conlan in Belfast. Conlan fights in Belfast are absolutely mental. The atmosphere is incredible. So just want to ask you, Elliot, do you think that Lopez's experience last time out, from fighting Warrington and Leeds, do you think that'll stand him in good stead and help him when going into Conlan's backyard this weekend?
One word answer, I think it will. Like you say, I think obviously we've seen Warrington's Leeds fan base is rabid. That's sounds obviously in a sort of passion support for the fighter. But to be honest with you, I actually think that as you as said there, and obviously I know you've been in part of that atmosphere previously, the Conlan experience, seems to sort of transcend that, doesn't it? In a way, like when the ring music comes on, when Grace comes on, everything, the lighters go up, etc. It's almost like it's almost like there's some sort of like devotion, like the devotional aspect of it is almost like religious in its kind of in its fervor. And I actually feel like even though he will have had that experience in Leeds, this will be something beyond that, frankly. So in a way, yes, it will help him. But I almost feel like it'll help him in a kind of preparatory way for what's coming, as opposed to actually, certain times you could go, okay, you fight Warrington in Leeds, and then you maybe fight Wood in Nottingham. The Leeds atmosphere you'd expect to be more rabid, I suppose, than the Nottingham atmosphere that you'd fight. So in a way, you'd be sort of coming down a little bit. Whereas I actually think this is going to be beyond what he's experienced previously. So in a way, yes, it will help him. But I don't know. I still, to be honest with you, if you're not affected by what you're going to see, if you're standing in the opposite corner, then you're either sort of psychopathic or generally unwell. So I think it will help him, but at the same time, it'll be a larger atmosphere than what you've seen previously.
Yeah, I think if you're Lopez, I think he'll probably be thinking, same thing again, same old. I'm going into someone else's backyard, and it probably will stand him in good stead. But I reckon when he's standing there waiting to make his ring walk, obviously he'll be walking. I believe he'll obviously be walking second to the ring because he's the champion. Conlan already be in the ring and will have had a rapturous reception, which he'll have heard
Mm.
backstage waiting, and he'll probably be going, "Oh shit, what's this?" And then as soon as he starts making his ring walk, he's gonna be getting torrents of abuse. He's gonna be getting booed all over the show. But yeah, I think that it probably will. I think it probably will stand him in good stead. Moving
Can you
on.
just give us, Paul, sorry, can I just interject there and say, can you just give us, because obviously, like I said, I haven't been in a Conlan Belfast atmosphere before, but you have. Can you just give us a minute or two on kind of what that is actually like in comparison to some of the other shows that you've been to? General noise factor, general kind of just the passion, how that kind of is to actually sit in that audience would be, I think, very interesting. Like I said, I'll be very interested to hear because I haven't actually been a part of it personally.
Yeah, well, put it this way. His last two fights have both been at the SSE Arena, which is where this fight's going to be on May 27th. One against Karen Guerfi, the other against Miguel Mariaga. Two fights which Conlan was a huge favourite in. And, you'd maybe think that the arena wouldn't really be full and they're not massive fights. But honestly, see when he walks out, it's just, you can't even hear yourself think. There's that much noise, and honestly, they're going absolutely nuts in the stands. Cheering Conlan on, and I think I reckon that'll be multiplied even by tenfold this fight because obviously a world title on the line, more jeopardy. But yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy compared to other shows I've been to. It's kind of something I've never really heard before.
No,
And,
no,
and
no,
it,
thank you. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject there, but I just kind of wanted to get a bit of the context of what that's like because even through the TV that translates as like as some sort of bedlam, but in a kind of positive, focused way, which you don't tend to see necessarily in a lot of other audiences. So I'm envious actually of you going to this and having had a chance to sit at it previously. And I think imagine if Conor does win, the actual atmosphere will just be. I mean, talk about think. I mean, your head will probably explode. I imagine decibel exposure alone. But yeah, sorry, yeah, we can carry on talking through, but thank you for sharing that.
yeah, if Conlan wins, there'll be pints flying everywhere. I'm sure. I'll be soaked in lager by the time I leave. But yeah, moving on, as you said there, the next question I kind of wanted to ask you, Elliot, is looking at Conlan. He's not necessarily known as a massive puncher. However, last time out, he stopped Guerfi in the first round and looked like he was, sitting down on his shots more. Luis Alberto Lopez, on the other hand, although he didn't win his last fight by knockout, he's got quite a few knockouts on his resume. Um, he's got 15 and 27. For me, this this fight could end by a stoppage. Not going to say which way I think it could go. I think there is a possibility. For you, do you see that as a possibility? Do you see this fight ending within the 36 minutes for either man?
It's less of a possibility I think than what you're suggesting. I personally think. I mean, I'm not going to give too much away here, but I think the winner, without trying to give too much away, the person I think wins this hasn't got a great KO percentage necessarily. And has been, but as you said, has been able to sit on his shots a bit more. But I also feel like that was the Guerfi as well that kind of suited Conlan in that sense, given kind of the history that he'd had and the sort of comebacks that he was coming off of those other. Well, the other UD victory, and obviously the loss to Lee Wood. Obviously, Guerfi obviously been stopped by Lee McGregor in round one, wasn't he, as well? Jordan Gill stopped him. So I still feel like with Conlan, it could, but I don't see it. I don't see it ending. I don't see it ending kind of within the distance. Even though as we went, he's got other sort of KO victories. Sofian, oh, someone pronounced that guy Salim Tashuk, as well has been another one that stands out in my mind. I think that Lopez, to be honest, could stop Conlan if he was to prevail in this fight. I do feel like if it's going to be a stoppage, it'll be Lopez that gets it. However, equally, I don't see him having that kind of turn off sort of power that Lee Wood had at the same time. So I feel like if Conlan sort of fights, keeps his sort of concentration longer, and and yeah, and essentially just kind of like you said, there's Conlan's bigger in this fight. He's got reach advantage, he's got high advantage. Kind of stays away a bit from Lopez in that way, and kind of adapts his technique and his tactics in order to fight sort of from that distance and to utilize that advantage. I don't necessarily see Lopez landing with the sort of the shutdown power that Lee Wood has. Even though like you say, he stopped Isaac Lowe and other games of that nature before. I still think that if it does go a Conlan victory, it'll be points. But if it does go to stoppage, maybe Lopez. But I don't see Lopez stopping.
Yeah, interesting. I'll just quickly add that I don't really disagree with what you're saying. I think the general consensus here would probably be Conlan points or Lopez by knockout, which is much of the same as people thought for the Wood fight. And I can see where they're coming from. For me personally, without giving too much of a prediction away, we'll come to that at the end. But I think there's not a high chance, but I really could see this fight ending in the distance. I think Conlan has looked far more powerful than his last two fights. Obviously, the knockout against Guerfi last time kind of might have just caught him cold and early. But he looked brilliant even in that, the 2 minutes that fight went on. Before that against Mariaga. Mariaga is known as a big puncher. And of course, Conlan was coming off a loss. So there was those demons he had to face as well. So and I'm pretty sure he got a knockdown or two against Mariaga. So yeah, he's definitely punching harder. Don't
Mm.
think he could knock him out concussively here, Lopez, if Conlan is to win. But I wouldn't put it past, a second round or a second half of the fight, sorry, or late, last two or three rounds stoppage in favor of Michael Conlan. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and I definitely think it is a possibility. This is, of course, for the IBF featherweight title. There's a few other champions at featherweight. You've obviously got Mauricio Lara, a few others there. We saw Rubizi Ramirez beat Isaac Dogboy recently in featherweight division. We've seen Brandon Figueroa move up to featherweight and look sensational last time. We've mentioned Lara, we've mentioned Wood. Those names there, plus a few that I've forgotten to mention or haven't mentioned as well. Where do you kind of see these two in terms of the featherweight division? Are they both in the top 10, top 15? Where do you kind of see them, Elliot?
Both top 10 for me, definitely. I think IBF, obviously, as a body doesn't tend to give kind of opportunities and rankings to more sort of outlier fighters than the other sort of established bodies. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and say that I put either one of them potentially above sort of Vargas, Lara, Ramirez at this point. However, I feel like the Conlan loss to Wood was unfortunate in a way because he was winning that fight and looking sensational, and obviously lost and eventually with the way it happened. But he could easily, if he'd have won that fight, been elevated into that conversation where you're talking about sort of Lara, Ramirez, etc. So I'd put Lopez as to be honest with you beneath those guys as sort of champions at the division. But I'd also have Conlan, frankly. I mean, you talk about Figueroa, names like that as well. Maybe I might even have, to be honest with you, I might even have Lopez top, not sorry, have Conlan sort of top five, top six in the division as well. Outside of those champions, I think I even though he lost, I actually think Conlan, to my opinion, I'm prepared to take some heat for this possibly. I rate him higher than Lee Wood, higher than Warrington, and names of that nature as well. So for me, he's sort of upper echelons, top 10. Lopez, I mean, you have to kind of, he's a world champion. I have still give him to a sort of top five on the basis of that, but I would have him beneath Ramirez, beneath Vargas, beneath Lara. Is where they sit for me.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I definitely agree with both top 10. I think I'd have, yeah, although Lopez is obviously a title holder, I maybe have him just outside my top five. But then again, I completely see your point. Title holder, but there's four titles, four different people that could be the top four in the division. I think that there are a few names who aren't obviously world champions that could beat Lopez. But yeah, I think maybe both definitely top 10. I see what you mean about Conlan maybe being above Wood. I probably just put him at one behind Wood, just because obviously I agree with what you're saying. Conlan definitely was winning that fight for me, and was what, a minute 30 seconds away from winning the
Mm.
fight. But at the end of the day, that didn't happen. So I think you've just got to. I think it's only fair to put Lee Wood just above Conlan. But yeah, I do both think that they're in the top 10. Now, I obviously you don't want to look too far ahead. We don't know what's going to happen in the other world title fight on the night in the featherweight division, and Wood Lara too. There's obviously other world champions hanging about at featherweight as well. Do you think that the winner here will look to go straight into unification? Does your opinion change on that, depending on who wins? Say for example, Conlan wins. Does he get a easy first defense back in Belfast again? Or do we think it's unifications for either man after this fight?
I think first off, let me say I'd love to see Conlan fight Lara. For some reason, that's the fight that would stand out for me. Just style wise, I'd love to see it. But I actually think if Lopez wins, I can see a unification fight coming for Lopez. But I feel like if Conlan wins, he's got avenues. Like you think about the guys. Let's say, for example, Lara beats Lee Wood. That Conlan Wood rematch is still massive. Conlan versus Warrington is huge given the size of their fan bases. So I feel like Conlan would have options, sort of domestic options, as it were, rather than necessarily having to go straight into unification. But equally, I'd love to see him fight Lara. But I think that's how it sits for me. I think Lopez, there's less kind of avenues. I suppose, like you're saying, even though, let's be frank, even though he's not necessarily on the level of those other champions, like you look at, do you want to sort of cash out one of those other champions, or do you want to fight maybe someone like, I mean, ranking wise, it's like a Warrington or a Jazza Dickens sort of thing. You fought Warrington already, so maybe go into a unification. But yeah, for Conlan, I can actually foresee possibly the Wood rematch. And yeah, I mean, I'd love to see him fight Warrington as well. So I think there's more options there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Depending on what happens in Lara Wood too. Say Wood wins that. Don't know whether
Mm.
there maybe be a trilogy there. There probably would be. If he doesn't and he loses and Conlan wins, I still think Conlan will want that wood fight
Mm.
because it's still eat away at him in the back of his head. Another, obviously, you mentioned there, say Lopez wins. Lopez Lara, Mexican unification. Oh, unreal. Get that down in Guadalajara or somewhere, it'd be unbelievable. We could talk about this fight, Elliot, for a long time, but unfortunately we can't. But I, of course, cannot let you go without asking for an official fight prediction for Michael Conlan against Luis Alberto Lopez on May 27th. What way is this fight going? Who's winning it and how?
You know what? This is heart and head, Paul, coming together here in unification themselves. I think Connor's going to win this on points. I hope he wins it on points. I hope for my sake, for British boxing fans' sake, but also for your sake, Paul, you'll be there. I hope you've got the earplugs in, frankly. But I hope you also get to see that. I really, really want Conor to become world champion. I think he deserves it. I think he's so talented, even though, like you say, he's not necessarily got the power of some other guys in that division, but style-wise, beautiful boxer to watch. Love to see him become world champion. I think he deserves it, and I actually think it will happen on May 27th.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of prediction. I think Michael Conlan will win. I think that he's shown recently that he's on, he's up there with the best guys in the division. He's obviously got that extensive amateur career. He's brilliant. He's sensational to watch. He's absolutely brilliant boxer. Him and Adam Booth work really well together, I feel, as well. And yeah, I think he'll definitely win. Do you know what? I'm going to go out on a limb and say I'm going to disagree with you in terms of the method of victory. I'm going to go for a Conlan late KO, so rounds 10 to 12 roughly. I think Conlan maybe 10th or 11th round will just, I think Lopez maybe be gassed. The crowd will be getting on Conlan's back, and he's just going to go for it and land a big left hook or something and shut Lopez's lights out. Imagine something like that happened. Honestly, I think I'd have to be going and getting my ears checked the next day because
Paul,
the
I'd
the
like to zoom in to see you'd be tossing lager through the air. You'd be swinging your own left hooks, I reckon, if that comes in. But I genuinely hope that happens. I really hope it happens. I think it's every chance that could also happen as well as a points victory.
Yeah, it's a brilliant fight. And guys, thanks very much for watching. Elliot, thanks again for jumping on. And yeah, I've really enjoyed breaking this fight down with you. We've got loads of other big fight breakdowns, written content, betting content, Greg's prediction videos, all sorts of content on our YouTube channel. Interviews, of course, with fighters as well. So yeah, stay tuned into that, guys. And yeah, thanks for watching. Elliot, all the best.
Thank you very much, Paul, and again, thank you very much, guys, for watching.